Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancho, and it's Thursday, week 6. We have a game tonight between the Seahawks and the 49ers. Who you going to start and who you going to sit? Before I get into the players, there are some important injury updates for this video. Cornerback Charvarius Ward is questionable, and that might help out DK Metcalf a little bit if he doesn't play. Safety Hufanga also on IR. We know that McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall, and kicker Jake Moody are out, but on the opposite side of the ball, the Seahawks defense is depleted. All of these players are out. Linebacker Uchenna Nwosu, cornerback Tariq Woolen, defensive tackles Byron Murphy and Cameron Young also out. So it's cost them a couple wins lately, and I do worry about their defense being a sieve. But linebackers Derek Hall and Boye Mafe also questionable. Safety Julian Love questionable as well. The Seahawks defense is not healthy right now. So let's get into these players. I do think there are some locks in your lineup. For instance, Kenneth Walker, a must start every week. He's a premium athlete, and he is averaging 20.2 points per game in 3 games this year. An average of 100 yards per game on only 16.7 touches, 4.3 catches as well is fantastic. His passing game work has definitely stepped up this year, and with 4 touchdowns, he is a very safe bet in your lineup. He has not played excellent in this matchup, only an average of 9.8 points per game in his last 3 games, but I don't really care. He's played so well this season, and I love the usage for him. I think he's a very safe play. I think he's a lock in your lineup. My running back 6 this week. I'm also starting Jordan Mason, who I did upgrade actually in the rankings because of all of these defensive injuries, especially on the defensive line, that will help out Mason's floor tremendously. So he was previously RB12 for me. Now he's running back 9. I bumped him up 3 spots, and he is averaging 15.9 points per game so far this season on 22.4 touches, 1.4 catch, nothing special, but 120 yards per game and 3 touchdowns. His floor is very safe. He did fumble last week, and that's not good. But if you look at this matchup, it does rank top 14. They have given up 4 rushing touchdowns this season, and I do expect Mason to probably find the end zone. So I think you're starting him for sure. I think he's a top 10 play, and I did upgrade him. McCaffrey in this matchup owns them, but obviously Mason's not the same athlete. Mason's not as good as CMC. Almost no one is. I'm also starting Deebo Samuel with a massive level of confidence. I know last week was bad, but I expect a major bounce back here because he historically owns this matchup in 6 career regular season games against the Seahawks. An average of 21.8 points per game on 8.8 targets, 6.7 catches, 124 total yards, and 6 total touchdowns. Deebo always goes off in this matchup. He dominates Seattle. They have no answer for him. So especially with all of their injuries, I think that'll repeat. I think Deebo's a lock in your lineup. I ranked him as wide receiver 7 this week. I think he's a guaranteed top 10 play because he plays so well against Seattle. This season, he's only averaging 10.4 points per game, but I expect a huge bounce back this week. I think he'll be lights out. There's no way he only has 1 reception in this game. So definitely love Deebo this week. And after last week, I think you trust Brandon Aiyuk in your lineup. I am starting him myself in the subscriber league. He's my wide receiver 17 this week. And although he's only averaging 8.4 points per game this season, it was a slow start. Last week was very encouraging. He had 12 targets, 147 yards. He was excellent against Arizona. So you trust him a lot more. The volume should be there. And from a floor standpoint, I do trust him. He's pretty bust-proof. In my opinion, I was very high on him entering the year, and now it looks like the talent is paying off. He was rusty the first month. Now he's starting to get going. So I'm going to start Brandon Aiyuk. While I do think this is more of a Deebo Samuel game, I think with the injuries on the defense, Aiyuk should play well. Maybe Devon Witherspoon locks him up a little bit, but at some point they're going to have to pay attention to Deebo, and Aiyuk will get open. So I'm trusting Aiyuk. I'm also trusting DK Metcalf. I have him ranked 1 spot behind Aiyuk at number 18. And historically in this matchup, he's not lights out. Only an average of 8 points per game on 7.4 targets, 4.2 catches, 47 yards, and 1 touchdown in his last 5 games against San Francisco. So nothing special. He usually gets shut down. But if Ward is not healthy, if Hufanga is not going to play, I think he'll look good. He's looked very good this season, an average of 12.8 points per game. And that includes 2 fumbles over the last 2 games. So it would look closer to like 14 points per game without the fumble. And it's because of the volume. 8.6 targets, 5.6 catches, 84 yards per game, and 2 touchdowns. Metcalf is a stud this season, a top 20 wide receiver. Every single week, I think you have to start him no matter what. So he's a number 18, a bit of a downgrade in this matchup, but still a player I'm starting. I'm also starting George Kittle no matter what. He's my tight end 2 this week, and I almost ranked him at number 1, but I think there's more volume headed towards Brock Bowers. So you're definitely starting Kittle. He's been lights out, averaging 13.2 points per game. In 4 games this season, he's giving you 7.3 targets, 5.3 catches, and 58 yards per game with 3 touchdowns in each of the last 3 games. So Kittle, a must-start tight end. He is a great option this year at a position that's been pretty brutal. If you look at this matchup as well, he also plays well historically. In his last 4 games, he averages 11.6 points per game with 3 touchdowns, 4.3 targets, 3 catches, 56 yards. And that's basically what this defense allows. The Seahawks rank 14th against the position. While they have yet to allow a touchdown, they give up 5.6 catches for 57 yards per game to the position. So I think Kittle will go over 50 yards in this matchup and probably score a touchdown again. He normally gives that to you at a 75% rate this season. So I love Kittle. He's a great tight end this year. One of the few options you trust no matter what. I'm also starting Brock Purdy in this game. I think Deebo's going to play well. I think Kittle's going to play well. And Purdy will throw at least 2 touchdowns in my opinion. He has played excellent in his career against Seattle. He is 4-0, averaging 20.3 fantasy points per game on 282 yards per game passing, 8 touchdowns passing, only 2 interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. He usually has a very high floor, plays very well against Seattle. They have not been able to stop him since he's been a Niner. Obviously, this is a different situation with a new head coach in Seattle who gave him a lot of problems as the Baltimore defensive coordinator last year. He threw 4 interceptions against the Ravens, and that's probably a big reason why Seattle hired Mike Macdonald in the first place, to limit Brock Purdy in division. However, with all the injuries on defense, I'm not worried about it. I think Purdy will play well, and although he has 6 total turnovers on the season, I think he protects the ball. It's a must win. They're 2-3. They cannot fall to 0-3 in division and let Seattle go to 4-2. So I do think they win. I do think Purdy plays well. He is undefeated against Seattle in his career. So definitely starting Purdy. He's my quarterback 9. I think the floor is very high this week. And I'm also starting the 49ers defense, who have played very well this season. They have 2 defensive touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 4 fumble recoveries, 15 sacks, and a blocked kick. They have been a very good option, only giving up 21.2 points per game allowed. So I do trust them. I do think they're top 10. If you have them, I wouldn't drop them just to pick up a streamer at defense this week. So start all of them, but in terms of players you're flexing, I do think there's some consideration warranted for both Tyler Lockett and JSN. However, I do prefer Lockett this week. While he is not seeing as many targets as JSN, they've both put up very similar numbers for fantasy, and Lockett has played very well in this matchup in his last 5 games, averaging 11.6 points per game, 7.8 targets, 6.4 catches, and 72 yards per game with only 1 touchdown. The floor is very high with Lockett in this matchup historically. So I think he steps up. I think he pays off. And while there are some injuries to the defense, there's going to be a lot more attention on Metcalf, and that will allow Lockett to get open. So I trust him. I think he's a very interesting dark horse candidate this week. The volume between these 2 players, though, is a little dicey and does make them both viable as low-end flex options. So they're kind of beyond the cutoff point. I get it if you're benching them. Outside the top 35 is not ideal, but if I'm betting on one this week, it would be Lockett. He is upgraded, but still kind of dicey. And other than that, I'm considering JSN, but I'm really just hoping for a touchdown. Without it, I don't think he goes over 10 points. So it could go either way, and they kind of have a 2A, 2B situation. They're both behind Metcalf for sure, but they're both kind of equal to each other still. JSN is slightly above in terms of targets, but not in terms of production. So good luck there. I'm probably benching both, but I would consider Lockett this week. I'm benching Jauan Jennings, though, at wide receiver 41, a few spots behind him. He just feels too risky. More of a dart throw, hoping for a touchdown and a big play. And odds are it doesn't happen. If he puts up another one reception for the second straight week, I'd probably just cut him. So a little too risky to bet on now that Aiyuk is established. I worry about the third receiver for San Francisco. I'm benching Geno Smith, though. He's my quarterback 15 this week, and I don't trust the ceiling. He's played poorly in 4 games against San Francisco in his career. An average of only 11.4 points per game, only 217 yards per game, 17 rushing yards, only 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. More turnovers than touchdowns is never ideal. So don't trust him this week, but he has played well this season. An average of 18.2 points per game on 293 passing yards per game, 5 touchdowns, 4 turnovers, 29 rushing yards per game, and 1 rushing touchdown. He has been a top 12 quarterback this season. However, don't love the matchup here. I worry about it, and I do think he's limited. I don't think he's a top 12 play. I would bench him in a 1 quarterback league, but in Superflex at quarterback 15, you're still probably starting him. He has a decent floor. He has stepped up in the Ryan Grubb offense this year. However, Noah Fant is definitely a player I am benching, my tight end 23. He's been brutal this year, only averaging 4.1 points per game, and without one game where he had 60 yards, it's pretty much nothing every week. So definitely bench Noah Fant, and I'm also benching the backups at running back. Zack Charbonnet, my RB41 this week, just not getting enough volume with Walker healthy. Only an average of 7.2 touches per game, and that makes him very touchdown dependent. Without it, you will not be happy. So bench Charbonnet at RB41. He's too risky. And Isaac Geurendo isn't even a player you're rostering. I didn't even rank him top 50 this week. He's giving you a pattern of 1 touch followed by 5, followed by 1, then 5 again. The last 4 games, the volume is just brutal. So no thank you with Geurendo. Definitely benching him. And I'm also benching the Seahawks defense. I think the Niners offense will get going. There's too many injuries for Seattle as well. They had a hard time stopping the Giants last week, and while they probably look a little better in division on Thursday night at home, it's usually an upgrade. I just don't trust them. I only rank them number 18, and that's definitely a defense you are benching no matter what. So those are my start-sit decisions for this game. Kind of straightforward. Players you're always starting include Kenneth Walker, Jordan Mason, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, DK Metcalf, George Kittle especially, and then I am still rolling with Brock Purdy, my quarterback 9 this week, and the Niners defense still ranked top 10 as well. Some players I'm considering to flex, though, would be Lockett and JSN. Lockett is my dark horse candidate, and there is a world he gives you over 15 points. Even without the touchdown, though, I think you're getting at least 9 points from Lockett. So a very safe play, very enticing this week, but just past the cutoff point of players that are locks in your lineups. So odds are you will bench them, but I would prefer Lockett over JSN this week. I'm benching Jauan Jennings, Geno Smith, Noah Fant, Zack Charbonnet, Isaac Geurendo, the Seahawks defense, as well as Jake Bobo, obviously. But here is my final score prediction. I do think the Niners win. They're a little too desperate to lose this game. They cannot afford to drop to 2-4, and 0-3 in division would be a disaster. So a must-win game. I do think they step up, and historically, Purdy, Deebo, and Kittle kind of own this matchup. I think they'll play very well in a must-win game again. So love them this week. I do think the Niners win. Final score 27-24. I think it will be close, come down to a field goal. And the line, I think, is very sharp in this game. The Niners are favored by 3.5 points, and I do think the Seahawks cover that half point is very valuable. The over-under, though, in this game would be 48.5 points, and I'm projecting 51 here. So give me the over on total points, the Seahawks to cover, but the Niners to win straight up. Final score 27-24 in favor of San Francisco. That's it for the start-sit decisions, but I also give you a bet every single week, and here it is on the screen. I feel really good about this one. I only put down $3. The payout is 180. If all 5 picks do hit, I will get 60 times my initial buy-in. I did use a 31% profit boost token, but here are the picks. Tyler Lockett averages 72 yards per game in his last 5. I think he goes over 60 in this game. I hit the over on this scorcher. I do think Purdy throws for at least 255 passing yards in this game. He's averaging 275 on the season, and in his last 4 games against Seattle, an average of 282. I think he could approach 300 in this game. I love this line on Brock Purdy. He will hit the over on passing yards. I also think Deebo is a lock to score a touchdown this week. He's definitely going to bounce back, and he owns this matchup. He scored 6 touchdowns in his last 6 games against Seattle, and he'll score again. I hit the over with confidence on Deebo Samuel, 1 touchdown. I do think Kittle is a bit of a 60-40 bet to score a touchdown. It's been 3 this season. He's also scored 3 in his last 4 games against Seattle. And while this one could definitely burn me, it is more of a toss-up, I do think it's more likely to hit than not. He's been heavily targeted in the red zone this year. So I'm hitting the over on Kittle, half a touchdown, and then I think it mostly comes down to this line on Kenneth Walker. He's been very involved in the passing game, averaging 4.3 receptions per game, and he has gone over 30 receiving yards in each of the last 2 weeks. The line is only 23 yards, and San Francisco does give up over 42 receiving yards per game to the position. I think Kenneth Walker will hit this line this week. I think they're trailing, and he starts to get some checkdowns, and it does pay off. So in my opinion, Lockett, Purdy, and Deebo are guarantees. If you only want to bet those 3, go ahead. I think that's a very safe bet. But I always give you 5, and I think it kind of just comes down to the George Kittle touchdown and Kenneth Walker putting up 23 receiving yards. I think those are the 2 that are most important for this bet. The other 3, I think, will hit no matter what. So that's my bet. If you want to join me and sign up for Underdog yourself, you can use the link in the description and enter code Nice and Blunt on sign up. Get your first deposit matched by 50%. If you put down $10, you get an extra $5 to play with. So this is a bet I really like. Only $3 down. If it does work out, 180 is returned in my pocket. So would love for that to happen. Wish me luck. And that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you next time. My name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.